you? Like, did you have supporters, doubters? Obviously, you have a family that you have to think about.
Yeah.
Can you walk through some of that process? Because I think sometimes when I help new agents get into this business, it's hard getting to the point
Yeah.
of making that leap of faith. Like, you never
You know,
really feel truly comfortable doing it. Can you kind of dive into that supporters,
yeah,
doubters, just your thought process with the family involved and the little one and all that?
sure. Yeah, man. First, like, the love of my life. I've been married since '01. So, um, she has been my biggest backbone and support. Works in the medical field, so she was really like an instrumental base really throughout my whole career. Um, it makes things a lot easier. I'll be honest with you, with a supportive spouse. That's huge, right? She believed in me, and then when I wasn't selling, it was like you know she was able to hold it down for us. I think the blessing, man, of being able to purchase a four family and live in that one unit was huge because the pressure of, okay, hey, unlike a traditional mortgage, hey, we got to pay this bill. We had rental income coming in. So, even with our young child, it was like, okay, we could sustain a little while until my business starts to pick up. Because you really, as a new agent, like, especially being brand new, it takes time, to really start to develop and grow. I had been blessed with some good mentors at Remax and currently now, but you have to give yourself the time, to fail and succeed at the same time. Like with any business, the statistics, first 5-7 years are so critical to the infrastructure, but really allowing yourself the time to build that infrastructure because it is hard, and you want to, for those of us that are married, having an amazing spouse to say, I got you. I can't thank her enough, for what she meant at that time and even today, because that takes some pressure off. Yeah, you got a 10-month-old, you got a wife to support, a kid to support, and you need deals in your pipeline. You need business, you need transactions, you need to fuel this beast called real estate that eats, marketing and advertising dollars, all of that. So, but yeah, she was my rock and just really allowed us to grow, and it took some time. I was fascinated by the REO game. I would look at some of the big heavy hitters in the city and just say, wow, how are they doing all these transactions? And I was like, wow. And I would, I chop it up and talk to some of the heavy hitters in the city, say, man, how'd you get these contracts? This is amazing. Because REO was really it was always there, but it was really
Hmm.
starting to take off. And I think I want to say in '08 through, I want to say 2017, it was a strong part of the market. It really
Yeah.
was, right here in Columbus. So, but yeah, we were fortunate enough to really, because it took me 7 years to land our first HUD contract and 8 to 9 years to land Fannie and Freddie. And so it was, those are really hard contracts. We had to go down to, 5 Star, Kiss the Babies, the big REO conference in Texas, hobnobbing with REO asset managers and stuff like that. That's a tough niche to crack. But God's grace, we were able to kind of get through, and we still have the Freddie contract as of now. But yeah, just plugging away, man.
You said something there in the beginning, sacrifice. I talked to a lot of agents like getting into this business. You're going to have to decide what sacrifices you're willing to make and not make. And if you're getting into this business, sometimes that sacrifice is family time. Sometimes it's not hanging out with your friends. Sometimes it's not going on that extra vacation that you normally would go on. And sometimes it's making sure that bills are paid, and you got to do what you got to do, um, because there is no fast cash in this business.
Right.
And putting it, you just laid out how many years it took you to get three solid contracts, right, with big players in the REO game,
10 years.
right?
Yeah.
And I always tell people, like, if you're in this for a career, if you truly want to do this for a career, it doesn't matter if someone wants to buy today, tomorrow, or next year, or 5 years from now. What matters is that I'm the agent in front of them whenever they do it or whenever they decide to buy or sell, right?
Right,
And it
right,
takes a level of sacrifice, you
right,
know,
right.
if you truly want it. So dive into '05, '06, '07. Kind of lead me up to current day of your real estate business. What did that trajectory look like? Obviously, you're kind of
Yeah,
focused more on
yeah.
the foreclosure side of things and really interested in that, which is completely opposite than most people have thought about real estate. And
Oh yeah.
people getting in today don't even know what the hell we're talking about. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, man. No, it was yeah, I was blessed, man. Initially I worked at, Remax Town Center with a realtor there. Shout out to Mikkel Henderson. I worked on her team initially starting off, and she really just kind of just introduced me to the HUD game. And I was fascinated by, just the prices, number one, on how inexpensive this real estate was. I was like, wow, man, and the equity and the opportunities there, and then work really at Remax from '04 through 2009. And, just really cut my teeth on, trying to, network and how do you get in, with some of these banks and so on, because yeah, from '04 through 2009, so it was like it was kind of like the calm before the storm.
yeah,
I went to a conference and they were showing how in 2008, 9, and 10, it was like, man, it was like an economist that had predicted and said, hey, look, these things are going to start resetting. These loans are going to start resetting. They're going to be getting called due. These adjustable rates. It's going to be raining REO. So I was doing like some BPOs for some banks, just trying to get my feet wet, cold calling banks, and landed my first small bank. I want to say that was like '06 or '07, small bank out of California. And then I was just, like I said, it took me 10 years to really land, the GSEs, which were the Fannie and Freddie's of the world and HUDs of the world. 7 years for HUD and then 10 ultimately for Fannie. It was just conference, calling, conference. Hey, I'll do broker price opinions for free, signing up on every BPO website that was out there. Some guys would pay me, some guys wouldn't. So that was kind of the niche that I had focused in on right away, and it was REO, because at the time that's what I saw. I was looking at, you know, I dropped the Beckett's of the world. I was loving them, and the Fords, and I was like, wow, they are heavy hitters, and I was like, man, I want to be like them, and so yeah, it just took a long time to really crack that niche. But once we got going, I was kind of in 2010, 11, and 12. It was like really, really. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, I went from at Remax selling like 20, 25 houses a year to selling like I think 120 in 2013. So it was like things just doubled, and all of a sudden it was like I'm responsible for property preservation, overseeing renovations, cash for keys, which is an interesting piece. Overseeing evictions and things like that. Just working with local, establishing utilities, just paying all their bills. It was like, wow, like this is, and it's kind of funny because this is where I could draw back when I was 14, where my dad would say, you need to have money in this account. Cause I remember talking to these REO managers and they said, how much money you got in your account? I'm like, that's personal, but I might have like 20, 30,000 in my account. They said, okay, you're going to need every bit of it. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they said, oh, this is what you're going to be paying. They just put out a spreadsheet. And I'm like, wow, this is what we're responsible for. And then you got to be responsible for getting your reimbursements back. Because if you don't get your reimbursements back, that's really on you as the REO broker. So having
yep.
good tracking systems and things like that. But I gravitated towards that niche early, and then like I said, our business really just took off during those REO years. Really, all the way till about 2017 is when we started seeing things really dry up. And I remember going to a NARAB conference in Cleveland. And they were telling us that this was going to happen, that it was going to dry. You guys had a really good run, and I was like, man, I was kind of like, oh man, I was 80, 90, 120 transactions. Man, this is what I do. And it went from that to I'm down to like 10, and so making that transition from, REO to traditional, it's been real the last 4 years, because it
Yeah.
was like, it's kind of like going back to what we started, the fundamentals, is when they didn't know who I was, it was like, you're kind of getting right back to the basics again, the same grind of what you initially focus in on REO. Now she got to flip it to more on a traditional base. So it's been interesting. And I was just telling somebody, I said, um, I've learned a lot through the process, learned a lot through our career, and just on the traditional side, it's much different. When you're dealing with asset managers, they just care about, okay, hey, can we move the asset? They're looking at my BPO. They're looking at, hey, this is what you told me that it could sell for. Let's get this thing sold. They have unlimited pockets. I mean, they can make price reductions like that. They say, hey, look, I remember there was a property I had, and my BPO had come in at 115,000. We were priced at 175. I mean, they dropped it just like that. A traditional seller is not going to do that. Because that's their equity, but they wanted the
Yeah.
asset gone. And I was like, hey, this is what my BPO came in at. It was like, okay, all right, we'll drop it right now. And they did. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think just kind of getting your mind around, okay. And, everybody, a good mentor of mine, Don Payne, shout out to him. Vision Realty has been really, really instrumental. He's really the reason why I'm actually a broker today. I give him a ton of credit. Me, him, and there's another broker, Stefan Douglas and Associates. We work out at Lifetime Fitness every day, and we just talk about real estate, talk about wealth building, all of that. And so those guys have been phenomenal mentors for me. And but yeah, it's just because the game is constantly changing. You
Yep.
know, so it's good to just kind of be, have mentorship, and then just still be able to keep yourself grounded because even mentally, it's like, wow, we go from appraisal gaps to now we have higher interest rates, and those buyers are now not necessarily wanting to buy because they're fearful of the higher rate. And it's kind of like, okay, hey, we don't have to now bid 50 grand over asking price. You got an opportunity now to get it a little under list price, but you're gonna pay a little bit more money now per month. And but if the market and the interest rates drop, you at least been able to procure your home, and let's try to do it that way. But yeah, the swings have been huge the last
Yeah.
couple of years. So
It's one of those things.